On his wedding anniversary night, Alex lied to his wife, claiming he had to work overtime at the office. In reality, he was sharing a room and scandalous pleasures with his mistress. A night of debauchery made him forget all about time. Waking up, he found himself trapped inside a coffin, unable to escape. In a fit of panic, he desperately dialed his mistress's number, begging for help. Just moments later, a familiar phone ring echoed from below his feet. It was then he realized a body lay there, leaning against him. Struggling, he tilted his head, using the dim light of his phone screen to illuminate the space below. A shiver ran down his spine. Sarah's face was unmistakable, her body still clad in the seductive lace nightgown he'd bought her. Her eyes were vacant, her face devoid of color, her corpse stiff and cold as ice. It felt as if he were touching a slab of metal. He could clearly smell the sickeningly sweet scent of blood rising from beneath, a wave of abject terror washing over him. The coffin lid was barely 2 fists' width from his head. His knees couldn't bend, and the width on either side was a tight fit for his shoulders. The ringing stopped abruptly. Sarah's phone lay right at his feet, yet it felt like the farthest distance imaginable. He stretched out a hand to push the coffin lid, but it felt weighted down by 1,000 pounds, refusing to budge. Is anyone there? The cramped, dark space was driving him insane. He pounded relentlessly on the coffin walls, screaming for help, but no matter how loud he cried out, only echoes and infinite silence answered him. He tried to suppress the rising panic, swallowing hard, struggling to regulate his breathing. The oxygen inside the coffin was limited. It would soon run out. He raised his phone before his eyes, staring intently at the single remaining signal bar. He scrolled through his contacts, finding his wife's name, his heart filled with unease. Should he call her for help? He worried that once rescued, his wife would discover he had been with his mistress. How would he explain that? After much hesitation, he finally decided to call. Better to die of shame than to truly die. After a long ring, his wife's voice echoed from the other end. Before he could utter a word, she let out a scornful laugh. "Were you having a good time with your mistress?" He flinched. "She trapped us in here." His heart tightened with tension as he softly asked, "Olivia, what are you talking about?" Olivia's voice on the other end was thick and nasal, as if she had just finished crying. It was a helpless, bitter laugh, her tone dripping with disappointment. "Alex, what did you promise me? You said you would never go near that vixen again. And what happened? Yesterday was our wedding anniversary and you weren't home all night. I called your office and they said you didn't work overtime yesterday. Were you with that hussy?" He hastily tried to explain his predicament. "Wife, listen to me. I'm in a bit of trouble, that's why I couldn't come home." Before he could finish, Olivia burst into tears. "Alex, you're still lying to me. I've already checked your expenses, you rented a room with her last night, you're truly a dog that can't change its ways, I want a divorce." "Wait, I'm not lying to you. Hello, hello." The call was cut off. The suffocating environment made him even more furious. He angrily punched the coffin lid, unable to stop himself from cursing. "Damn it, that stupid woman." He was about to call back, but his phone chose that moment to warn him of low battery, only 2% remaining. He had just one last chance to call for help. After weighing his options, he still chose to call his wife. "We're sorry, the number you have dialed is currently busy. Please try again later." Damn it. She turned her phone off. He immediately composed a text message detailing his current situation to his wife, hoping to stir her compassion. Only she could find a way to save him. Why didn't he call the police? He didn't dare, because Sarah was dead by his own hands. Sarah was the company's front desk secretary, a married woman who maintained a captivating figure. 2 months ago, their clandestine affair was discovered by his wife. But women, especially those foolish enough to love blindly, could be appeased with a little sweet talk. He promised her he wouldn't reoffend, and she believed him. Reoffend meant he wouldn't repeat the obvious mistakes she could easily uncover. So, last night, after work, he arranged to meet Sarah at a hotel on the outskirts of town to avoid drawing attention. Little did he know, after they were done, she handed him a USB drive. Inside were all the rental records and private photos of him and her from the past 6 months. She blackmailed him, demanding 20 million yuan in hush money, threatening to hand it over to his wife if he refused. He was a son-in-law living with the Ding family, a powerful clan with influence in both legitimate and underworld circles. Without Olivia, he would be nothing today. If that USB fell into her hands, he wouldn't just lose everything. He might even lose his life. He immediately panicked, arguing with her. If this gets out, your husband will know too. Sarah seemed unfazed, casually twirling her hair. So what? I'm not afraid of losing face. If I'm tired of it, I can just get a divorce. There are plenty of men out there pursuing me. But you're different. If you're exposed, you might actually die. Her lips curled into a demonic sneer, pushing him further and further into the abyss. The money he had spent on her wasn't just once or twice. She was like a greedy vampire, constantly draining him dry. In a split second, a dark thought sparked in his mind. Kill her to silence her and retrieve the USB. His eyes unconsciously fixated on the ashtray on the nightstand. In a fit of rage, he used it to strike her hard on the back of her head. He vaguely recalled her falling into a pool of blood, convulsing endlessly. She must not be dead. Right, not dead yet. He delivered several more blows until she stopped breathing, then he discarded the weapon. He remembered somehow disposing of her body, but the details after leaving the hotel were a complete blank. Waking up to find himself in a coffin, he dared not call the police. Once they found the body, they would surely investigate him. A prison sentence awaited him, and his future would be utterly ruined. Currently, the only person who could save him was Olivia. With the power of the Ding family, she would surely find him. Time ticked by. The air in the coffin grew thinner, and he still received no reply from Olivia. Impatiently, he pulled out his phone to check, only to find his distress message hadn't been sent. The phone signal was cut. Now, only 1% battery remained. He pressed his phone close to the coffin lid, waited a moment, and slowly, a single signal bar appeared. Before he could send the message, the screen abruptly went dark. It's over. The battery's dead. He had lost all chance of contacting the outside world. His mind went blank. Without the phone's light, his surroundings instantly plunged into complete darkness. In the silent coffin, only the frantic thumping of his heart and his ragged breaths echoed. Wait, there's still a chance. Sarah's phone was still at his feet. If he could just get his hands on it, there was still a chance to survive. His feet ceaselessly probed, rubbing against the corpse's legs, desperately searching for a lifeline. His ankle vaguely brushed against a hard, flat surface, and a screen's light immediately flickered from below. Ha ha, found it! He was overjoyed, struggling to lift his head, his forehead brushing the coffin lid, and peered down. In the next second, the expression on his face froze, his heart pounding. On Sarah's phone, a slender snake, black, white, and green, was coiled. It was now raising half its body, flicking its tongue, emitting a hiss. Damn it, how is there a snake in the coffin? What depraved bastard threw a snake in here? In that instant, goosebumps erupted all over his body, and his scalp tingled. Compared to the dead body behind him, the banded kite curled at his feet was far more terrifying. It looked like a banded kite, milky white belly, flattened oval head, and extremely venomous snake. The screen light flickered on, then died out again, plunging his vision back into darkness. He dared not risk touching it again. The kite could strike at any moment, and in this defenseless environment, one bite meant certain death. At this point, he found it difficult to breathe. The oxygen was rapidly depleting. If he didn't act soon, he truly would die in this coffin. Suddenly, an idea flashed in his mind. He remembered he had a lighter in his pocket. Snakes, especially venomous ones, feared fire the most. He could use fire to defend himself and drive it away. However, using fire also came with a deadly problem. It would accelerate the consumption of oxygen in the coffin. What about cigarettes? He fumbled in his pocket, a silent surge of relief washing over him. Luckily, both were still there. He tried to minimize his movements, careful not to make any loud noises that might attract the kite's attention. Click. The cigarette lit, the lighter conveniently extinguished itself. The scent of nicotine quickly filled the coffin, overpowering the smell of the corpse. He didn't dare smoke it. Even a single puff now would be a waste of precious oxygen. He gripped the cigarette, aimed it at the spot near his feet, gathered his strength, and flicked it. Hiss! The kite's furious hiss rang in his ears. His attack seemed to have worked. He seized the chance, touching the phone screen with his ankle. The light illuminated the kite, now retreated into a corner. This is my chance. He used his toes to hook the phone, then gently kicked it. The phone slid to his knee. Seeing the phone so close, he struggled to straighten his arm, reaching towards his knee, touching the edge of the phone. Come on, just a little more. His middle and index fingers strained, inching the phone closer, his muscles aching. His 3 twisted fingers finally clamped onto the phone. He lifted it. Success. Just then, a chilling sensation crept up his calf. He looked down in horror. His previous movements had startled the kite again. It was now coiled around his leg, inching its way upwards. The kite's slick, iridescent scales glided casually over his leg. It slowly crawled up to his groin, then stopped at his abdomen. He immediately held his breath, but his heart, defiant, pounded wildly, his chest heaving. By the light of the phone screen, the snake's eyes reflected a dangerous reddish-brown glow. He decided to remain silent, hoping it would leave on its own. Suddenly, Sarah's phone rang, making him jump. He instinctively glanced at the kite. It paused, seemingly motionless. He then glimpsed the caller ID. Ryan, Sarah's husband. The phone's ringing once again drew the kite's attention. It slowly flicked its tongue, crawling towards his chest. The ringing was oddly piercing now. Even holding his breath couldn't control his heart rate. The kite, like a powerful hand, constricted his chest. It slowly crawled up his face, pressing against his nose. He glanced sideways, gently swiped the answer button with his thumb, then put it on speaker. He then placed the phone next to Sarah's corpse, hoping this method would lure the kite away. There was a long silence on the other end before Ryan's voice slowly emerged. "The USB is in your hands." Alex froze, suddenly remembering. In his panic while disposing of the body, he had only focused on the corpse, completely forgetting about the USB drive. How could he have forgotten the USB? Though 1,000 questions churned in his mind, he dared not open his mouth, fearing he would disturb the venomous snake on his face. Seeing no reply, Ryan continued, "No need to pretend you're silent. You're Sarah's boss, taking my wife to rented rooms not just once or twice. If I hadn't followed Sarah last night, I'd probably be wearing these horns for the rest of my life." The kite seemed genuinely drawn by the phone sound. It raised its head, looked around, then crawled down his neck towards the corpse beside him. His back was already drenched in sweat, not just from the venomous snake, but also from Ryan's words. "Last night, I personally witnessed you kill Sarah. You stuffed her into the car, intending to dispose of the body." The man's words wrapped around Alex's throat like a python, choking him. Ryan deliberately wants revenge, that's why he locked us in this coffin. But the man's next sentence contradicted his thought. "I know the power of your Ding family. I won't pursue responsibility. I only have one demand, 20 million yuan in hush money. Otherwise, I'll report your murder to the police and release those sensitive photos from the USB online." Another blackmailer. They really are a matched pair, husband and wife. He was certain it wasn't Ryan who had trapped them in the coffin. Otherwise, the man would surely know his current situation. However, Ryan had now become his lifeline. He tilted his head, glancing at the kite. It seemed to have crawled down onto Sarah's corpse, moving away from his body. Only then did he let out a sigh of relief, swallowing hard. "Hello, talk to me, don't pretend you can't hear," Ryan's voice urged impatiently. Alex feared he would hang up, so he hastily pulled out his lighter and flicked it open. He held the flame near the phone to scare the kite away and retrieve the device. Just as he was about to grab the phone, a sudden sharp pain shot through the back of his hand. He accidentally cried out, quickly pulling his hand back. The lighter fell. Hiss! The kite seemed startled. It crawled down his leg and disappeared. His gaze naturally followed it, discovering a hole at the bottom of the coffin. It must have crawled in through there and quickly slipped out the same way. His heart, which had been suspended in terror, finally settled. The immediate danger was resolved. He quickly picked up the phone and cried out, "Don't hang up, it's me. I agree to give you the money, but you have to help me with something." Ryan impatiently retorted, "Don't play games with me, transfer the money quickly." Alex calmed himself, licked his lips and said, "All right, but my wife's grandmother passed away a few days ago and the family is extremely busy. I can't access funds right now. I can only give you cash. I previously deposited a large sum of money into a coffin, but I forgot where I put it. As long as you find that coffin, forget 20 million yuan, all the money inside will be yours." Of course, he was lying. The coffin he spoke of was the very one he was trapped inside. If Ryan found it and pried it open, he would be saved. He continued his deception. "The coffin must be near the hotel from last night, no more than a 3-hour drive away, within a 200-kilometer radius, perhaps on a mountain somewhere where there might be snakes." He had killed Sarah and left at 1:00 a.m. It was now 4:30 a.m. Accounting for the time to transport the body, carry the coffin, and for the kite to crawl in, his estimation couldn't be far off. He relayed all the information he could infer to Ryan. The other end remained silent for a moment, then Ryan spoke, his voice sounding agitated. "Are you messing with me? I don't care how you do it, but you absolutely must transfer the money to me before dawn." As soon as the words left his mouth, he hung up. "Damn it, you bastard!" He furiously pounded on the coffin lid, unable to stop cursing. Suddenly, his eyes caught sight of the stinging pain on the back of his hand. His pupils contracted. He gasped. 2 distinct bite marks were clearly visible on his hand, accompanied by a numbing sensation. He had been bitten by the kite. Its venom would take effect within 3 to 5 hours, leading to death. If he didn't act immediately, he would surely meet his end. A chilling dread welled up in his heart. He quickly tended to the wound. With no first aid materials in sight, he looked around, his gaze falling on the lace nightgown Sarah was wearing. Luckily, it was delicate lingerie, easy to tear. He ripped off a piece of fabric, wrapping it tightly around his forearm, then used his mouth to suck the venomous blood from the back of his hand. A salty, metallic taste flooded his mouth. To prevent any remaining toxins in his mouth, he stuffed the rest of the cigarette pack into his mouth and chewed. The cigarettes absorbed his saliva, making him even thirstier in the waterless environment. After this makeshift first aid, he turned on the phone screen, intending to send a distress message to his wife, but he discovered a deadly problem. Sarah's phone had a lock screen, requiring a password. Unable to unlock the phone, he couldn't contact anyone for help. He could only use the flashlight and camera functions. The moment the flash went off, the entire coffin became brightly lit, almost blinding. Observing more closely, he realized the coffin seemed to be made of cypress wood. This type of wood was of good quality and resistant to decay, often favored by wealthy families. He remembered Olivia had ordered a coffin like this a few days ago, specifically for her deceased grandmother. And tomorrow was the 7th-day memorial service for her grandmother. A jolt of electricity surged through his mind. He suddenly realized, remembering Olivia's words on the phone, "Yesterday was our wedding anniversary, and you weren't home all night. Then Grandma's funeral is today. This coffin would ultimately be taken to the crematorium to be incinerated." He remembered the crematorium here opened at 6:30 a.m. The Ding family would surely arrange for the grandmother's final rites early in the morning. Only 2 hours left. "If I don't get out, even if the snake venom doesn't kill me, I'll be burned alive." Sweat streamed down his back, making the coffin feel even more suffocating. He tried various passwords to unlock Sarah's phone, but unfortunately, after 5 attempts, the phone locked itself. In that instant, anger, anxiety, terror, and despair simultaneously overwhelmed him. He thrashed like a fish caught on a hook, rolling around like a petulant child, clenching his fists and pounding wildly in every direction, shouting, "Damn it, who the hell trapped me in here?" But outside remained utterly silent. Suddenly, his arm seemed to brush against something, emitting a asterisk clack-clack asterisk sound. Then another sound echoed in the coffin, distinct from the ringing in his ears and his pounding heart. Beep, beep, beep. He looked up, extreme dread flooding his mind, consuming his entire brain. Right then, a bomb became clearly visible directly above his head. On its digital display, a death countdown timer was ticking. 1:59 minutes, 57 seconds. Someone wants to blow us up. No, that's not right. This coffin was meant for Grandma. In 2 hours, it would be cremated after the funeral service. The entire Ding family would be present then. Someone wants to kill the entire Ding family with a bomb. As far as he knew, the Ding family's illicit dealings could not be exposed to the light. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say they had caused several deaths, harming countless ordinary people. The number of those who wanted to end the Ding family was not small. Unfortunately, due to their power and wealth, no one could touch them. But in this life, he was innocent. He had never involved himself in the Ding family's business. He had never done anything against his conscience. He just momentarily lost control and killed Sarah. Perhaps it was truly due to their prolonged influence. He had been trapped with a corpse for so long without feeling any remorse. Now, all he wanted was to escape. Anyone who could save him would do. Nothing was more important than his life. Sarah's phone, though unable to make outgoing calls, could still be used for emergency calls to the police. In this situation, he no longer cared about any consequences from the Ding family. He decisively dialed the last number of hope. "Hello, Police Emergency Center 110, how may we help you?" "Hello, officer, I'm trapped in a coffin, bitten by a venomous snake, and there's a bomb inside. Please come save me quickly." "Sir, please calm down, we need to verify. You said you're trapped in a coffin, do you know the specific location?" He thought for a moment. The coffin was for Grandma, so it must be in the morning hall area. Fortunately, he had accompanied Olivia once when her grandmother passed away. Yes, we'll arrange for colleagues nearby to check. Please keep your phone accessible for communication. Thank you. Goodbye. Beep, beep, beep. Their tone was perfectly professional, yet he felt a dismissive air to it. On second thought, it made sense. Who in their right mind calls the police in the middle of the night claiming to be trapped in a coffin, bitten by a snake, asterisk, and with a bomb? The call center operator must think he's a lunatic with mental issues. Fortunately, according to protocol, they would send someone to the reported location to verify the situation. That would be his chance to be rescued. He removed the phone's back cover and rhythmically tapped the coffin wall, creating 3 short taps, 3 long taps, 3 short taps, hoping the inspecting police would hear his distress signal. Just then, a violent clap of thunder roared from outside the coffin, making the entire coffin vibrate intensely. Then brief, sharp plinks sounded on the coffin lid. The sound was like falling rain, growing clearer and louder with each passing moment. A shiver ran through him. There was a thunderstorm outside. The coffin wasn't in the morning hall, it was outdoors. The flicker of hope that had just ignited in his heart was abruptly extinguished. His earlier assumption was wrong. The police at the morning hall wouldn't find this coffin. So where was he now? Time ticked by second. 30 minutes had passed since he tended to his wound. He felt a distinct tightness in his chest and struggled to breathe, his breaths becoming shallow and rapid. Furthermore, prolonged oxygen deprivation made him dizzy and fatigued, with a constricted feeling in his throat. The venom had slowly begun to take effect. If he didn't escape soon, he would surely meet his end. Simultaneously, something worse happened. Rainwater began seeping in from the hole where the Krite had escaped, carrying a strong earthy smell that quickly spread. The rainwater flooded over Sarah's corpse, reaching a finger's height. He tried to use his foot to block the hole, slowing the influx of rainwater. Just then, the phone's lockout period expired. He could try to unlock it again. He racked his brain, recalling information related to Sarah, but neither her birthday nor 2 employee ID numbers worked. Suddenly, a spark of insight, a daring idea, flashed in his mind. Sarah's body was right here, why bother with a password? He brought the phone screen close to her face, then gently lifted her eyelid. A second later, the phone actually unlocked. He immediately called Olivia, placing all his hope in her. She might be angry and not answer his call, but for business reasons, or if it was an unknown number from the same city, she would surely pick up. A moment later, her voice indeed came from the other end. "Hello, who is this?" He was ecstatic, weakly shouting. "Olivia, it's me, Alex, don't hang up. Listen to me, the situation is very urgent right now. Where is Grandma's coffin? You have to find that coffin quickly." He didn't dare say he was trapped in the coffin, fearing she would get angry and hang up. Her grandmother had loved her most since childhood, so she wouldn't ignore anything related to her. Olivia immediately grew wary. "Why are you asking that? What's wrong with Grandma's coffin?" "There's a bomb in the coffin. Tomorrow morning, during the memorial service, it will blow our entire family sky high." He had expected her to be shocked and surprised. Instead, she seemed remarkably calm, sighing casually, "Alex, what have you done asterisk now?" This time, it was his turn to feel a sting. Olivia continued, "I'm not letting your affair slide, I'll deal with you slowly later. But if you dare touch the goods in that coffin, I guarantee you'll lose your life." His mind went blank. Everything had far surpassed his imagination. Olivia told him the coffin was never meant for Grandma's body. It's actually a shipment of white narcotics smuggled by the Ding family. The Ding family recently distributed a large amount of white narcotics and has been under police surveillance. We were worried about how to deliver the goods when Grandma suddenly passed away. So they came up with a plan, used the coffin to smuggle this shipment. They canceled the cremation and opted for burial, interring the coffin underground. In 15 days, the buyers would dig it up, open the lid, and inspect the goods. By then, they could complete the transaction discreetly, right under the police's noses. Grandma's body had already been moved. An entire coffin packed with goods was their path to wealth, their Achilles heel, and crucial evidence for the police. Hearing this, Alex was once again shocked. "Impossible. I've examined the entire coffin. There are no white narcotics inside." That meant someone had secretly opened the coffin during this time, removed all the goods, and then thrown them both inside. If Olivia was telling the truth, then his fate was to be buried alive. Finally, he panicked, deciding to tell Olivia the truth. Only she could save him. Even if he ended up maimed or kicked out of the Ding family as a scapegoat, it was better than being buried alive. Just as he was about to open his mouth, his tongue began to feel numb and his throat felt constricted, unable to utter a sound. Damn it, the snake venom is taking effect. His vision started to blur, and his consciousness gradually faded. Olivia's voice grew more and more distant, and finally, everything before his eyes plunged into darkness. The piercing phone ring echoed relentlessly in his ears. He suddenly opened his eyes wide, startled awake, unsure how long he had been unconscious. The water level now reached his chest, half his face was submerged. He tried to sit up, but unfortunately, the coffin's limited height forced him to prop himself up with both hands, struggling to gasp for air above the water. Outside, the rain grew fiercer, accompanied by loud noises. Vaguely, he recognized the sound of a crane, along with loud shouts. "All right, prepare to hoist it up. Mind your position, watch out for landslides." Then the entire coffin began to shake violently. His body swayed with it, and a terrible premonition suddenly arose. They're preparing for burial outside. Since it was a cypress wood coffin, it was heavy, requiring many people to carry, hence the crane. He frantically pounded on the coffin lid, shouting loudly, "Wait! There's someone inside. Save me." Help! But his cries received no response. A second later, he lost all sense of gravity. The coffin was suddenly hoisted up, and the surrounding water rapidly receded, draining out through the hole. The phone continued to ring incessantly. He hurriedly reached down to retrieve it. The screen displayed an unfamiliar number. Because the screen was wet, he swiped several times before finally answering. There was a moment of silence on the other end, then a calm voice spoke. "Hello, I'm Inspector Leo." "Did you report being trapped in a coffin earlier?" he anxiously shouted. Yes, that's right, it's me. I'm about to be buried alive right here in the coffin at the Ding family's funeral site. Hurry and save me." Inspector Leo replied. "Please rest assured, sir. We, the police, have already sealed off the Ding family's funeral site, but the coffin is their private property. We, as police, do not have the right to open it for examination without a search warrant. We need to wait for the warrant. Please stay on the line with me, don't hang up." He looked up at the bomb. Only 29 minutes left. He anxiously yelled, "Forget the search warrant, just get me out of here already." Inspector Leo kept trying to reassure him, telling him to calm down. The police had to follow the law in everything they did. The water level in the coffin gradually receded. He was almost completely dehydrated, his mouth dry, his tongue bitter, his head spinning. Watching the countdown clock tick down above his head, the asterisk beep 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 asterisk sounds made him restless and uneasy. Before long, the coffin seemed to land safely, no longer shaking. Inspector Leo told him they had arrived at the Ding family's funeral site. Due to the heavy rain at dawn, the coffin, which had been buried in the ground, had been submerged, so they had to use a crane to retrieve it and place it on level ground. He let out a small sigh of relief. At least they weren't burying him. Just then, he heard arguing from Inspector Leo's end of the phone and immediately grew wary. Olivia's voice was as loud as ever. "Today is my grandmother's memorial day. Please don't disturb her." Beside her, other police officers chimed in. "Sorry, Ms. Ding, but we're also just following regulations. The police suspect that inside your coffin is not your grandmother's body, but white narcotics. Please cooperate." Olivia coldly stated, "Our burial time is already set. We absolutely will not delay a single minute or second." Inspector Leo, on the other side, sternly said, "Even if you bury it well, once a search warrant is issued, we will dig it up. By my calculations, if buried alive, with soil covering the coffin, the oxygen inside would only last me a maximum of 10 more minutes. But the bomb above my head definitely won't wait until they dig me up." However, a second later, Olivia said, "All right, fine. I want my grandmother to rest in peace too. We won't bury her anymore, we'll take her straight to the crematorium. Let's see how you investigate that." Olivia must have known that once a search warrant was issued, the contraband would be seized, so she decided to destroy the evidence. Burn all the goods rather than be caught by the police, but she doesn't know there are no goods in the coffin, only me? No, she can't burn the coffin, I'm still inside it. "Inspector Leo, save me." But there was a slow response on the other end. He suddenly panicked, frantically pounding on the coffin lid. Everyone was at the funeral site, why couldn't anyone hear his commotion? The more he struggled, the more exhausted his body became. Just then, Ryan's call came through, overriding the current one. He hesitated for a few seconds, then answered both calls simultaneously. "Alex, it's almost dawn. Why haven't you transferred the money yet?" He couldn't help but curse, emotions suppressed for so long suddenly erupting. Are you sick? I'm barely holding onto my life right now. What garbage am I supposed to transfer to you? Ryan, fine then, don't expect to live either. I'll tell you the truth, last night I already discovered the coffin where the Ding family was hiding their goods. I moved all the white narcotics out and planted a timed bomb. Option 1, transfer the money to get the narcotics back. Option 2, I'll blow up the entire funeral site. He screamed, damn it, so you planted the bomb. Ryan, you told me to find the coffin, knowing there was no money inside. You tricked me into going there so the police would catch me and make me a scapegoat for you all. Don't think I don't know. He cursed the man 1,000 times silently. If that brat hadn't played these tricks, I wouldn't have been shoved into this coffin. So last night, after Ryan cleared out the coffin, someone placed him and Sarah's corpse inside. From their conversations, he could rule out Olivia, and it wasn't Ryan either. Then who was it? Right now, the most important thing was to find a way to escape. He had to tell Olivia this. If she knew there were no goods in the coffin, she definitely wouldn't send it for cremation, nor would she rush to dispose of it. He ignored Ryan, quickly cutting off his call. Inspector Leo, I know where the shipment is. Please help me tell Olivia. There are no white narcotics in the coffin. Inspector Leo hummed an acknowledgement, then said to Olivia, Ms. Ding, we've sealed off the area. We need you to hand over your phone. He roared, wait, what are you doing? Inspector Leo ignored his words. He quickly hung up and called Olivia's phone, but the one who answered on the other end was Inspector Leo. That was dangerous. You almost managed to contact someone outside. Inspector Leo, what do you mean? He asked in a stern voice, but he heard the commotion on the phone growing more distant. Inspector Leo moved away from the crowd, saying grimly, it's simple. I can't let anyone else open this coffin. He suddenly realized it was Inspector Leo who threw us into the coffin. He had been keeping him on the line to buy time, to prevent him from informing anyone else. He couldn't understand. They had never known each other, never even met, so why would he trap him in a coffin? Inspector Leo lowered his voice. Alex heard him light a cigarette and exhale smoke. A dying man doesn't need to know so much. Your time is up. Prepare to go. Rumble, rumble. Inside the coffin, he felt violent shaking and rocking, accompanied by the rumbling of a large truck. Olivia was truly taking the coffin to the crematorium. He had told Olivia that a search warrant would mean digging it up, specifically to trick her into burning the coffin. Just burn us to death, and there will be no evidence left. Inspector Leo had confiscated the phones of the entire Ding family. They couldn't contact anyone outside. Even if he called the police, Leo was the police and his superiors would assign the task to him. He couldn't escape. Seeing the time nearing 6:30 a.m., he remembered the funeral site wasn't far from the crematorium, only a few minutes' drive. With no tools he could use, escaping seemed an impossible fantasy. Could he really be cremated with the coffin, burning to death? Burned to death? Wait, a spark of an idea flashed in his eyes. If he just burned the coffin, someone would notice. Thinking of this, he regained his composure, quickly reaching down under Sarah's body to search. The lighter was waterlogged, covered in a bit of mud, completely soaked. His thumb pressed the lighter, producing a clack sound, but no spark. Please, just a little spark. His repeated failures to light it made him agitated, his heart beating faster. Beep, beep, beep. He looked up and saw the countdown clock rapidly accelerating, the beeping growing more frantic. Only 7 minutes remained. Outside, several deafening claps of thunder roared consecutively. Oh God, please let me light this. Click. Heaven seemed to have heard his plea. The lighter miraculously burst into flame. He involuntarily let out a mad laugh, ecstatic. He immediately ripped off a piece of dry fabric from his chest and held it to the flame. Due to the humid environment, it was very difficult for it to catch fire. He only saw tiny sparks, extremely slow to ignite. Faster, 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 he urged himself silently, just a little more and it would catch fire. Finally, his efforts were rewarded. He managed to ignite one piece of fabric. He quickly ripped off a second piece, then a third. Very quickly, thick, acrid black smoke filled the entire coffin. Through the hole and crevices at his feet, it spread outwards. The bomb's countdown clock showed only 2 minutes remaining. He finally heard cries of astonishment from outside. The coffin's on fire. It seems there's movement inside. Is anyone there? He wanted to answer, but the dense, acrid smoke made it impossible to breathe. He had to pinch his nose, forcefully banging his phone against the coffin wall. A fierce sensation of suffocation overwhelmed him. His head throbbed, his chest ached dulled, as if someone were pressing on it. The coffin lid slowly opened a crack, and in his ears he heard voices cooperatively lifting the coffin once more. 1, 2, 3, lift. Finally, the coffin lid was open. A blinding ray of light shone directly into his eyes. The sharp pain made him wince, squinting his eyes into a narrow slit, his vision hazy. When he finally made out the scene outside the coffin lid, he froze, utterly speechless with shock, accompanied by heavy, ragged breaths. In his ears, the bomb's asterisk beep 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 echoed. The patient is responding. Once more. 1, 2, 3, lift, beep, beep, beep. The heart monitor's feedback brought a joyful expression to the doctor's face. CPR successful. Check heart rate, blood pressure, maintain effective circulation. Under the harsh, blinding lights, a doctor, completely gowned and masked, suddenly appeared before him. His consciousness gradually returned, his brain becoming clearer. Wearing an oxygen mask, his breathing slowly stabilized. The crite bite wound on his hand had now transformed into an IV drip, connected to a fluid line. The body pressing against him had become a cold steel bed. The areas soaked by rainwater were now covered in bloodstains. The original sound of thunder was now replaced by the electric crackle of the defibrillator in the doctor's hand. The patient is awake. Administer sedatives and pain relief. Regulate electrolytes to ensure fluid balance. After the coffin lid opened, he found himself in the emergency room. The intense pain was almost unbearable. He couldn't utter a word, and the memories in his brain gradually became hazy. Was the scene of me trapped in the coffin just a dream? In his ears, he vaguely heard the head doctor shouting, "Patient Leo has passed the critical stage. Inform his family." Wait, Leo. He remembered now. He was Leo. The recent scene was no dream. I am Inspector Leo, a senior detective. The police had been monitoring the Ding family for 2 years, but still couldn't find conclusive evidence to prove their crimes. Recently, white narcotics have been circulating more and more, and my superiors had issued an ultimatum. Solve the case and gain immense renown, fail and be reassigned to patrol duty. This was my only chance for promotion. I had to seize it. Last night, I was drinking with friends to drown my sorrows when I suddenly received a call from an informant. They said the Ding family had hidden freshly produced white narcotics inside Olivia's grandmother's coffin. I immediately sobered up, threw on my jacket, and rushed out of the house. Night had fallen. It was 1:30 a.m., and the remote road was almost empty of traffic. I was still in the suburbs. The coffin wasn't far from me, only a 10-minute drive. To get to the scene early and search for evidence, I decisively got into the driver's seat and sped off. The lingering alcohol in my system tormented me, making my head spin, slowly losing my clear judgment. Just then, from around a street corner, a car suddenly sped out. The dazzling headlights blinded me, forcing me to swerve sharply. Unfortunately, I couldn't avoid the oncoming vehicle. With a deafening crash, the two cars collided. Fortunately, my car was larger and heavier, so it only came to a stable stop by the roadside. But the opposite car wasn't so lucky. It flipped over, all 4 wheels in the air, its windows shattered, 2 dark figures lying in the middle of the road. My heart suddenly constricted. I cautiously approached to check. It was a man and a woman. I put my finger near the woman's nose and found she had stopped breathing. I immediately panicked. I was drunk driving, caused an accident, and killed someone. If discovered, I'll definitely lose my license. This is a crucial moment for my promotion. There absolutely cannot be any mistakes. I went to the man's side and discovered he was Alex, the Ding family's son-in-law. This scoundrel had harmed so many people. He truly deserved to die 1,000 deaths. I hoisted both bodies into the trunk of my car, hastily dealt with the wrecked vehicle, pushing it into a nearby river, then drove to the coffin's location, making the most of the time to search for evidence. According to the informant, it should have been full of white narcotics, but when I opened it, I found it empty. A plan suddenly sparked in my mind. I threw these 2 bodies from the car into the coffin and closed it. The next morning, the coffin would be taken to the crematorium. This way, the accident victims' bodies could be disposed of discreetly. As for the white narcotics, I'd find another opportunity to locate them. Not long after I drove away, I suddenly received a call from the police center, informing me that someone nearby claimed to be trapped in a coffin, requesting me to check it out. A shiver ran through my entire body. I suddenly remembered I had forgotten to check if Alex was alive or dead, so I immediately returned to the funeral site. Just then, a thunderstorm broke out. My accident-damaged car had stalled, temporarily unable to move. I quickly got out and ran, asking the center for Alex's phone number from when he called for help. No one was answering. I couldn't be careless. If he died and someone else found him, an investigation would surely be launched, and they would definitely trace it back to me. He absolutely had asterisk to disappear. After several busy signals, he finally picked up. At the same time, I had arrived at the scene, discovering that the Ding family had also arrived, using a crane to lift the coffin out of the pit. And other colleagues from the police force had also received the news and were sealing off the scene. I was worried Alex would be rescued, so I inquired, "Hello, I'm Inspector Leo. Did you report being trapped in a coffin earlier?" Yes, that's right, it's me. I'm about to be buried alive, right here in the coffin at the Ding family's funeral site." "Hurry and save me?" I confirmed he was still inside. The coffin had just been placed on the ground. I feared his commotion would make the Ding family suspicious, so I stepped forward alone, deciding to intervene. At the same time, I told Alex to stay on the line, preventing him from hanging up to seek help from others or calling another police center, which would expose my plan. It seemed his phone couldn't receive calls from others. Alex told me that the hidden white narcotics had actually been taken by someone named Ryan. Thanks to him, I would absolutely not help him escape. I hadn't expected the Ding family to opt for burial. If it was dug up, it would surely be exposed. So I deliberately hinted about the search warrant in front of Olivia. As expected, she switched to cremation. The torrential rain successfully masked Alex's struggles inside the coffin. However, just as the truck drove away, I noticed black smoke rising from inside the coffin. This bastard dared to set fire inside. I immediately chased after it, lied that there was a bomb in the coffin, dismissed the driver, took the wheel, and drove towards the lake. I was a police officer. Even if questioned, I could simply say I observed the scene, and my intuition told me there was a bomb in the coffin, which prompted my actions. When they retrieved the coffin from the lake, all the evidence against me should have already been destroyed. I didn't expect there to actually be a bomb inside. The powerful shockwave threw me from the car, causing me to lose consciousness. After I was wheeled out of the operating room, a radiant smile, lingering and unwavering, remained on my face. Alex's charred body, half-burned, his features obliterated by the explosion, passed before me. I involuntarily let out a series of grotesque laughs. Elders used to say that when two people are close to death, their souls intertwine, temporarily sharing each other's memories before dying. I'm not sure if those dreams were real or false. I only knew that with Alex's nuisance resolved, the next step was to apprehend Ryan, and then I would be promoted, receive a raise, and reach the pinnacle of my life. Knock, knock, knock. A knock echoed on the hospital room door. A young man in a white nurse's uniform with a mole on his lip entered, holding a syringe, and approached solicitously. "Hello, Mr. Leo, how are you feeling?" "Are you better?" I nodded. "Much better, thank you, just a little dizzy still." The nurse inserted the syringe into the IV drip bag and said, "That's normal, you've come back from the brink. I'm injecting some adrenaline to prevent acute renal failure. You should pay more attention to your diet normally." I replied, "Thank you, doctor." The doctor was about to leave, but as he did, he turned back with a knowing look. "Oh, right, Mr. Leo. Last night, I heard there was a car accident on Suburban Road 414. I think one person died and one was injured." I froze instantly, staring at the doctor in astonishment. A cold shiver ran down my spine. Road 414 was where I killed them. How did he know? Just then, two other police officers entered the room, and the doctor seized the opportunity to leave. While I was still pondering, a colleague came forward, asking solicitously, "Captain Leo, are you feeling better? Surviving such a disaster means great fortune. You'll definitely get promoted and receive a raise later." I nodded vaguely, my heart still pounding with fear. One of the colleagues poured a glass of water and handed it to me. This morning, that coffin was retrieved. The remaining body has been identified as Sarah, the company's receptionist. We suspect she and Alex were having an affair. Sarah's boyfriend, Ryan, is a major suspect. He hasn't been found yet, and a warrant has been issued for his arrest. I took the glass of water, glancing at Ryan's wanted poster on the phone. My pupils contracted. I froze, the glass halfway to my mouth, suspended in midair. The man in the picture was the male, doctor, who had just left. He was Ryan in disguise. Suddenly, I realized something. I snapped my head up, looking towards the IV drip bag. The liquid inside was slowly, drop by drop, flowing through the tube into my body.